I don't know about you, but everything just seems so hard nowadays. The housing market has been out of control and doesn't seem like it's ever going to find a breaking point. The job market is just full of fake robo postings. I think there's more ghosting happening in the job market than in online dating right now. It's mosquito season. Trying to strive for financial independence and hopefully retiring early, it just feels so unattainable nowadays. And that's part of why I'm feeling like I want to stop the pursuit of fire, dare I say. But the other part is I've spent a lot of time lately thinking about my work life, I guess you could say. Even though I was only on unemployment for a few months, it was very eye-opening for me. It helped me realize that I don't actually want to escape W-2 work. What I want to escape is W-2 work that isn't aligned to me and not aligned with what I care about or what I want out of my life. And I certainly value actual work-life balance more than anything these days. And of course, reaching financial independence and getting to retire early and just walk away from W-2 work at a typically much younger age than the conventional age, which just goes up by the year, which is really sad. Having complete control over all of your time is like the ultimate work-life balance. And generally people that do retire early do end up finding some form of work just because they can then focus on what they're passionate about. So they get to go enjoy themselves. And I think that finding a job that you're actually passionate about and want to show up for every day has been the missing sauce for me. I know that sounds really obvious, but it hasn't always been for me, because when I was younger, I was definitely focused on climbing ladders and chasing a higher salary. A lot of that was out of necessity because when I was younger, I didn't always make the best financial decisions. For most of my 20s and very early 30s, I had revolving credit card debt. I had a used car loan. I had a medical debt. And of course, student loans. And on top of that, I feel like we really have a tendency to wrap our work, our position, our title into who we are. I feel like it's most people's default reaction when someone they just meet or whatever says, tell me about yourself. Definitely knee-jerk reaction is to bring up your work title and what you do for work, right? Because it is generally what you spend the vast majority of your time doing. So it's kind of natural, I guess. But I don't know, I just don't love that. I don't love that at all. Because it has people thinking that like their self-worth as a human is wrapped up into their value or their pay even at work, or like what their title is, and like it's just a no for me. Luckily, eventually I smartened up with consumer debt, and sometime in my late 20s I decided to stop using credit card debt at all, or stop relying on it, but I still carried a balance. Unfortunately, when you're already in that situation and don't exactly have much to ever think about getting ahead, it's really hard to get out from under that situation, especially with the insane interest rates on credit card debt. Dang it, I just scared it, but there was a little teeny tiny turtle resting on a log over there. I scared it. Oh, so beautiful. In 2018, I got really lucky and I landed a high-paying job. I mean, it was like an amount that I dreamed about making by the time I hit retirement age. And I thank myself every day for going into that job and saying to myself, you know what? This is your opportunity to get ahead, to stop living paycheck to paycheck. Stop having anxiety every time you swipe your card at the grocery store. Stop overdrafting your bank account and paying stupid overdraft fees. Stop operating by the skin of your teeth without savings and get ahead. I'm so thankful. That was like my gut reaction, instead of just thinking about holy crap, all of the things I was now going to be able to afford and buy and go do. Nope. I kept the same exact lifestyle as if I was still making about $35,000 a year, and I just fisted every extra penny at debt. Started with the credit cards, then I tackled the used car loan, and then the medical debt, and then I tackled every single private student loan because I forget, it was 9 or 13, something like that. And they each had their minimum payment, and I was drowning in monthly payments, which is totally why I'm pretty much allergic to monthly payments nowadays. I do everything I can to avoid them because I was drowning in them for so many years, but I finally handled all of that. What's hard is going into that job, I knew I was going to hate it. I knew. And I did. And it was terrible. And it was 5 years of a constant rotating shift. So hard on your body, chronically understaffed, chronically being lied to that they were hiring, they're working on it, and they were always like 6 months to a year behind the 8 ball. Constantly. It was terrible. But I made a lot of money and I powered through a lot of debt. And once I tackled all the private student loans, then I moved on to the federal student loans and I tried to get ahead with those. And also at the same time, I was now working on building an emergency fund for the first time in my life. I was truly hopeful that by the time I left that job, I was going to be able to pay off all of my student loan debt. My biggest student loan debt is my federal student loan debt, which is a lot of different loans, but luckily it's all managed in one monthly payment. But after 2-3 years in that job, it became very, very evident that the thought of paying off all of my federal student loans is just so unrealistic. It's just never gonna happen. And I've talked about the many reasons behind that in other videos, but just, man, shitty interest rate structure on student loans is horrifying. Ew, that was a bloody one. But in 2019, 2020 is when I learned about the FIRE movement and I started getting incredibly interested in that, and real estate in particular, and using real estate to try to add passive income to my life, which I know real estate isn't necessarily passive, but you know what I mean. It's generally categorized as such. So since I knew paying off all of my federal student loans was a pipe dream, I decided to pivot and instead allocate extra money I was making towards saving up to buy rental properties. And I was hoping to start with a house hack, but of course, as we know, during that time is when the housing market absolutely started going crazy, and I pivoted again, and instead I bought a small single family home in the Midwest for incredibly cheap. There's definitely pros and cons to being a long distance real estate investor. I definitely wouldn't recommend it for everyone, and I would definitely not do it again, but I wanted to start small with learning the process. And ever since then, I've been trying to buy a house hack for myself to put a roof over my own head, gain control of my monthly housing payment, and provide a safe, comfortable place for tenants. But the housing market just has kept me priced out of it for so long because I don't want to go to the max of my means and be saddled with a monthly payment that is scary for me. Like, that just feels like I'm going back to old, stupid financial mistakes. So I've been really scared about going forth with purchasing a home, either for myself or as a house hack. And it's okay. I've come to terms with it, and maybe it's not my strategy anymore. I don't really know. But the other major thing that happened during that time is the pandemic. And while I was incredibly lucky to have an essential job, and so therefore I wasn't worried about losing my job when so many other people were losing their jobs, I was also incredibly envious of all of the people that suddenly got to work from home because I hated my job so much. And just the thought of being able to wake up in my own home and just have coffee in my favorite mug and not have to commute anywhere, especially in the winter. Working from home just sounded like the dream to me. But I didn't leave that job because I was essential, so I hung in there until 2023. I hit the 5-year plus 1 day mark, so I could be vested in a small pension that I had planned to use for real estate. So Stay tuned on that. But I also landed a different job in that time. In fact, it was a hybrid, mostly remote job. So suddenly I was getting my chance to go work from home. So February 2023, I started working from home. Now, again, I thought that was going to be the dream, but unfortunately, after a few months, I found myself just sitting inside, staring out the window, wishing I was outside. But, I mean, it was lovely to be at home, so I wasn't feeling uncomfortable enough to try to do something about it and try to get back in the job market. I just kind of like dragged along, I guess. The most eye-opening thing from that job was, you know what? Working from home is not necessarily the dream I thought it was, because I'm still tied to a desk, to a computer for 40 hours a week. And that is just so not me. I don't care how engaging the work is, which it wasn't. But I don't want that at all. So by having that job, like, that was a really big realization for me. Okay, I am just like a strictly field work person. I don't mind a little bit of computer work, but not 40 hours a week. That's not my jam. And then, of course, just under a year later, so January of 2024, I was very unexpectedly furloughed from that job, and I suddenly found myself dealing with the unemployment system for the first time. And interestingly, I think unemployment was the most eye-opening thing, because I suddenly had so much free time, which is what I thought I wanted. And I found myself bored out of my mind and feeling listless in a way. And again, I know part of that is just because it is so ingrained in everyone that they must be working to be a functional, productive member of society. But I think it's maybe going through a job change and then sudden unemployment, like within a year's time. It was all just very eye-opening and made me realize that I don't want to just not work at all. I want to do enjoyable work. The reality is I spent so much money in the form of student loans on these degrees that I have, and I want to use them. I pursued them for a reason. Marine biology, marine science is like what I've wanted to do since I was a toddler and understood the concept of I get to pick something I want to be when I'm an adult, and I've never wavered from it. And I don't want to now either. Now, I'm not saying I'm giving up entirely. I think financial independence is something that I know I'm always going to strive for, and I think to whatever extent possible, I think it's something worth striving for, possibly for anyone, if nothing other than like peace of mind. I think it is important to do the best you can to bolster yourself financially, because the job market sucks and employment just seems so unsteady these days. Like, things could change at the drop of a hat, and it's not the most comfortable place to be. So anything we can do to bolster ourselves. And so, like I said, I do want to work. I want to use my degrees, but I want to work in a healthy work-life balance. Actually have that, and not just work for a company that talks the talk all the time, because that seems to be a problem too, at least in my experience. But I want that balance so that I can focus on my personal life in a more meaningful way and pursue the things that are meaningful to me and the other passions in my life that I have aside from just marine science. I want to live a life of simplicity and self-sufficiency and just quiet, peaceful, in nature, growing my own food, and just continue to work while having that in my personal life just seems like such a perfect balance. And even though that lifestyle, those things, like, first of all, buying a home for myself, which hopefully will have land, like, that has upfront cost, of course, and putting structures and things in place to even start a homestead is major upfront cost. But just the thought of, over time, being able to reduce my dependence on the grocery stores, keep more of my own money in my pocket, and put more of it into my own land or into my neighbors' pockets, and focusing on living in a place, in an area, in a way that is more cooperative and actually like village based like it used to be, and have a way better sense of community in the place that I live, and like really plug into that. That's something I've never done before, but I really find myself wanting to do that. So now I've been a renter for so long, but now I just have this overwhelming urge to like put roots down somewhere and start that lifestyle. But it's hard when the job market sucks so much, and finding an area that has work and the kind of lifestyle you want. And luckily I'm in New England, so it's pretty prevalent, but you know, really the housing market still sucks everywhere. So there's that. I know I've mentioned multiple times over the years that I want to unplug from society, and while I've been pursuing the FIRE movement, I thought that that meant in all ways, including work. But again, I don't mind the work aspect. The things that I want to unplug from are really broken, effed up food system, agriculture system, whatever you want to call it. I want to unplug from that as much as possible and nourish myself properly and in a way that I believe is right for my body, so that I can live as long of a healthy, vibrant life as I can. And also from consumerism. We have such a consumeristic throwaway culture these days, with the absolute insane prevalence of cheap junk. And it's just trashing the planet, and the marketing on it is so strong. It just convinces people to spend any extra money that they do have, and it's just so toxic. And so those are the parts of society I want to unplug from, and I want to plug into community and continue to find work that is meaningful for me and that I enjoy, because I don't mind working. I really love working. I just want to care, you know? So I'm going to table the whole FIRE movement pursuit, not table it, I guess, but just kind of put it a little bit more in the background, because of course my goal with every single paycheck ever is to always live below my means. I think that is insanely important in every way. Live below my means and intentionally continue to set aside a little bit of money. It doesn't matter if it's not a lot. It's okay if it's just a little, but I'm happy. I think that's the key. Yeah, until this new job kind of normalizes and I figure out where I'm moving, what my new living expenses are going to be. There's a lot up in the air, but I feel confident that I will find something that works for me. Whether this current job works out or not, I hope it does, because it's 12 days a month. That leaves me so much free time. But it's also really, really hard on the body, and maybe it's not necessarily the dream, but it's working for right now, and I'm gonna just hold on to that because, again, the job market. So let me know your thoughts on the FIRE movement. If you are pursuing it, have achieved it, you've been trying to, and you're feeling like it's kind of slipping away, or you feel like no, it's easy, you're just not looking at it correctly. I don't know. I'm always so intrigued to see everyone's different opinions, because there's always things that I don't see or think about because I don't have the perspective or the insight or whatever. So I always appreciate you guys sharing any thoughts and opinions. Hopefully this was interesting or helpful if you have been feeling some kind of way about the FIRE movement and financial independence, or even just trying to get a little bit ahead. I know it sucks. It sucks real big. You know, one day at a time, one monthly budget at a time, one Transfer Tuesday at a time, whatever it takes. Baby steps are better than backwards. Thank you guys. I will see you again very soon. Bye.